Hello and welcome to episode 8 of On the Bench.
If you build aircraft, ships, armour, automotive, science fiction, figures, or space, this is the podcast for you.
And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about photo etch, as well as having a look at the price of our hobby. Is it getting too expensive and getting out of hand, or is it quite reasonable still? All that and more coming up soon. And g'day guys, and my name's Dave, and again I'm joined by Julian and also Ian. G'day fellas, how you going?
Good. How are you, mate?
Not too bad. Julian?
Yeah, I'm good. Yourself?
Yeah, good. So what you guys been up to since the last episode?
Oh, just a bit of model building.
What have you been building?
You'll find out when it's finished this time. I'm working on a top secret project.
Oh, you're not going to tell us what you're building at all?
Nah.
How about you, Julian? What have you been up to?
Figure painting, my little Warhammer figurines, and it's improving a neglected part of my modelling game.
You're doing a good job on them too, mate.
Oh, thank you.
Well, I got caught out this week. If you remember, I think we were talking about Loctite. I was talking about Loctite 406 the last episode, or the episode before, and saying how I never keep it in the fridge. Well, went to use it this week, and guess what?
It's dry, isn't it,
It's
Dave?
hard as a rock.
Yep.
And you think I can find Loctite 406 anywhere in any of the local stores? No. I think I might have to go to one of the automotive shops or something maybe.
Yeah, probably your best bet, mate.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So let's have a look now at what's new, and we can talk about what's coming up in the modelling world. And we're back with what's new, and I've come across this amazing little company called the Good Smile Company, which is a Japanese company, and they're actually building, which will be out next year, 2018, a Soyuz rocket and transport train in 1/150 scale, and this kit looks absolutely amazing. You can pose the Soyuz rocket laying down on the train transport, and you can also pose it in the slightly raised position. And as well as that, you also get a Soyuz spacecraft that comes with it as well, including the actual deployed solar panels. So this kit looks absolutely sensational. I know a couple of guys would probably be really keen in getting this, actually. So 1/150 scale, due out in March 2018.
So how big does that make it?
320 millimetres in length. I hadn't heard of the Good Smile Company before. I only came across them purely by accident. And it's one of these little sort of micro-Japanese companies that produces figurines like, you know, Hello Kitty type stuff.
Right.
And and it's about 5,370 yen estimated price. I've got no idea what the conversion for that is to Aussie or US dollars. So,
No.
But it sounds quite cheap and looks absolutely awesome.
That's an odd scale, 150, yes?
Yeah, but for the size of the rocket, I think it would build, 320 millimetres in length. That's still a decent sort of size model.
Yeah, are there any standardised sort of sizes, scales for spacecraft?
Rockets? Not too sure.
I'm not too sure. The Saturn, that big Saturn rocket, what scale does that come in?
Don't know. We'd have to look at it, Dave. Find out.
Yeah, we'll have to have a look and find out. I know you can get like the Apollo capsules and all that type of stuff, but I'm not really too sure what sort of scale they are. I think it's a bit of a mixed bag.
Didn't Dragon bring some stuff out in 48? Like Lunar Lander and that?
Yeah, that rings a bit of a bell. I'll have to have a bit of a hunt around.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what else have we got new? From another little company that I mentioned a couple of episodes ago called Model Collect. They're well on track for their B2A Spirit Stealth Bomber. That's going to be about $150 US, I believe. And also they're doing the B-52H and the B-52G Stratofortress, which in 1/72nd scale is going to make an absolutely huge kit. These are kits that have been just crying out to be redone in recent times, I think.
Yeah, I think the only option you had was the old monogram.
Yeah, that's right.
B-52s.
Yeah, I think you're right there, actually. But in 1/72nd scale, a B-52 is going to be huge.
Well, the wingspan's just under a metre, I reckon. The wingspan, they're huge.
72nd scale?
Yeah. I remember building one, and the base I put it on was a metre square.
Wow, that's absolutely huge. So we're looking forward to seeing these kits coming out, actually, and seeing some guys build them and see what they look like.
Yeah.
So they're all coming out soon. Actually, the B-52G is actually already available. It's in stock at the moment, but the other two are being released later on this year, early next year, so keep your eye out for that. New releases from Hobby Boss due for November 2017, and we have a 1/48 scale SU-27 UB Flanker C model, which is going to be a nice looking kit, actually. Also coming out from Hobby Boss is a USS Guam in 1/35th scale. Again, this is something that's been strongly anticipated by the boat building crowd. I know there's been a lot of talk about this online and a lot of excitement. That's going to build quite a large kit. That's going to be about 704 millimetres in length, and its beam is going to be about 80 millimetres. It'll come with some metal parts, which is ubiquitous now. And also we'll have a display stand with an engraved nameplate available as well. They're also doing the USS Pegasus, which is a patrol craft, which is a hydrofoil patrol craft, and that's going to be in 1/200 scale. I've actually got the 1/350 scale of this.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, it was a resin kit, and it's only half built and sitting on the shelf of doom at the moment until I get my hobby room all set up in my new place. But in 1/350 scale, it builds a nice one, so I'll be keen to see what it looks like in 1/200 scale. But being a constant scale modeler, I don't think I'll actually be purchasing or building this. The photo etch fret that comes with it is quite comprehensive, and yeah, it should look nice once it's all done up. Also from Hobby Boss, we've got a Black Widow P61A. That's in 1/72nd scale. You can model it in either the all black or the from the Night Fighter Squadron, and there's also a green scheme that you can
the olive
use.
drab.
Olive drab, yeah.
Neutral grey.
Yeah. So it's not an aircraft that's ever really grabbed me or excited me.
I love them.
Do you really?
I reckon they're awesome aircraft.
Nah, it doesn't really grab me at all. You know, it's highly effective in its role as a night fighter, but no, it just doesn't excite me as much as other things. And Julian's got a sly grin in his face.
Well, I know for a fact that Ian's got a kit of that, and
Yeah,
it's a very nice kit.
Yeah. Was that the Great Wall one I think I've got?
Oh, the Great Wall one.
Yep.
How did that build? That come up all right?
That's a nice kit. Mind you, I've spent probably an extra $70 worth of accessories for it on it already. But I think the only really problem they had was the nacelles. The shape of the nacelles was a bit dodgy, but I'm pretty sure it's ultra cast. I've got a set of resin nacelles for it to fix it up.
Oh, okay.
But then again, it could be just one of those things you just got to sand it out a bit. But being a lazy modeler, I'll just spend the money.
So, OK Interactive has hit the news with their new range of paints. These are a new acrylic lacquer range.
Yep.
And they've hit the market with 114 paints in what they call highly researched colours.
Yep.
It comes with a reference book.
Now, they're going to be like Gun-style paints or Tamiya-style paints? That's the big question.
It is the big question. They're saying that they've actually designed them so they can be used with a range of different materials to sort of cut them down as well, so that you don't have to just use their specific type of thinner.
Yep.
They've actually tested it with a whole range of different types of thinners, and apparently it works quite well.
That could be very much like the Guns paint then.
Yeah,
because I always cut my Guns paint with methylated spirits.
Oh, but these
cuts the drying time in half.
Yeah, well, that's true. But these look really good, and I'm yet to see something online where people have actually used them. But I guess what impresses me is the experts that they've called in to sort of get the colours right. Mm-hmm. There's about 1, 2, 3, 4 sort of colour experts, for want of a better word, who have really gone into analysing and researching the original colours.
If what I've heard too, there's no gloss colours. They're all the colours are flat.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything that's sort of saying there's any gloss in there.
But they'd probably have a gloss clear coat.
Yeah, if you go to the OK Interactive page, or if you go to the modelingnews.com, there's a large sheet that shows what paints are actually releasing, the whole 114 colours.
Someone was saying last night at the club meeting that they're actually now doing the good thing about them is they've got like British armour colours.
Yes, they have. So
the desert campaign.
Yep. So you can dive straight into the Tunisia.
And if they do a good azure blue, I'd be happy.
Yeah.
Being a Guns boy, that's the one colour Guns doesn't do in the Mr. Hobby colour range.
Or doesn't do correctly.
Well, they don't even have it.
Oh yeah. Sorry, they do have it in the Mr. Colour range, but even that's a bit too.
Yeah. Azure blue's a funny colour. It really is. You look at it and it's like really, really deep dark blue, and you think that's going to stick out. And then when you actually see colour footage of an aircraft in the sky over the desert, it just disappears.
Wow. Yeah, you're right. So I do a full range of colours for Allied tanks that cover the desert campaign, Sicily and Italy, and also through to olive drab and camouflage paints for the Pacific as well, for armour. Mm-hmm. And also these paints match up quite well for German colours as well. I think it looks like more late war stuff for German armour. But certainly if you're interested, go and have a look at the AK Interactive website, or go and have a look at the modelingnews.com. So that's it from me. Have you guys got anything new?
Keep your eyes out for a trumpeter. I'm going to make a bold statement here. In the future, we're going to be seeing probably a 1 to 350 scale HMS Exeter.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so you've got a bit of a lowdown and you can't reveal your source?
I've just been putting A and B together and coming up with C.
Wow. Well, that's going to be exciting to see.
Yes, seeing the Exeter in 1 to 350 would be fantastic. I don't know if any of the listeners here collect the weathering magazines. The 2 latest ones have come out.
Yeah.
One's the aircraft is for interiors, which I found really fascinating. It's got some great techniques for weathering up cockpits of aircraft. And the standard weathering magazine, the new one's all on faded paints and how to get a good faded look on your vehicles.
That's something we haven't really talked about before in the past, is the range of guides that are available now.
Oh, there's heaps now.
Yeah.
I remember the old days, you used to be able, all you had was Camback books, where you had the Shep Payne books, and that was about it.
Or do the old suck it and see method yourself and try and experiment.
Exactly. Yep. Because I reckon I learnt most of my hobby technique off the old Shep Payne books.
Oh, wow. Julian, you got anything new?
No, not really. I tend to not to put too much faith in rumours and yeah, it's not worth my time, to be honest. I'd much rather just wait till it hits, and then I can look forward to it being in stock and just buying it.
Yep.
Well, of course, I think I mentioned in episode 2 or even episode 1 My big rumour is the aircraft carrier of the Queen Elizabeth class. So I reckon Airfix is going to be doing that next year, or at least announcing it next year.
Yep.
So fingers crossed, because that'll definitely be one that I'll be purchasing.
Yep.
All right, guys, I think we're about ready to start talking about photo etch.
Yeah, sounds good.
Let's roll into that just after this quick break. And we're back, and in this little segment we're going to be talking about photo etch, and also that leads hand in hand with listener mail. So Robert Madden, beg your pardon, writes in, and g'day Robert.
Hi Rob.
Hi Dave, been enjoying the podcast. You were talking about the history of photo etch in episode 7, which I was, and if you remember I put out the challenge and I said that I thought that ships was the first time that photo etch was used. But Robert writes in, he recalls reading the first use of PE was by train modelers.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Don't recall exactly when it was, but it goes back quite a way, as photo etch is big in rail modelling. They even make entire trains using the process, and found out that the first PE for aircraft models appeared in the early 80s, which is generic stuff at first, levers, pedals and dials, etc. Robert goes on to say, actually, many of the things we thought were amazing innovations in scale modelling actually originated in the rail modelling world. As a hobby, model rail goes right back to the 1840s, so they've been finding new ways to make better models for a long time. Cheers from Robert.
Thanks, Robert. That's very informative.
Yep, and I think he's pretty much on the money.
I think so too.
I think I lost that little bet that
Yep.
he was first used on ships.
You're done now, mate.
All right, so photo etch. Let's have a chat about photo etch, and we can perhaps talk about how to use it, the best ways to use it, tools that we should be using. And I've got to say right off the bat, I absolutely love photo etch.
Same here.
Julian?
No, not so much.
No, that's photo
Well, you
etch.
don't have the patience for it.
Nah, I mean,
It's too fiddly.
it's as soon as you have to do with photo etch, it's like, nah, you got to put away all the other things and just you got to get out the super glue, and super glue is a pain in the ass.
Well, depending what you're gluing.
Yeah, well, a lot
If
of
you're gluing like tiny things, I never use super glue when I'm gluing tiny bits. I use Gorilla Grip.
Okay.
Gorilla Grip's just so much better when you're doing the tiny photo etch.
See, I'm completely different. I only use the Gorilla Glue when I'm using railings and putting railings down, stuff like that.
Actually, that's where I go the opposite.
Well, see, this... All right. So we'll just digress slightly for the moment and just talk about railings on ships first of all.
Yep, all right.
Okay. So the first bit of railing I put down goes down with some super glue.
Yep.
My preferred medium is Loctite 406, only because it gives a bit before it actually goes off. And so that's the first
Gives a
anchor point.
bit, what, 0.2 seconds before it dries?
No, you get a good 20 seconds or something before it dries hard.
No, not with me, mate. That stuff just, once it's on there, you make sure you put it in the right spot first and then bang.
So I'll do the first part of the railing with that, and then I'll use either PVA white glue or I'll use the Gorilla Glue,
Gorilla
Grip, which is similar to PVA, really.
Yeah, it's just got a stronger bond.
Yeah, and just let it sit for 24 hours and then come back and it's all dried clear.
Mm-hmm.
But when I'm doing my folds and everything, I actually do prefer to use a super glue or the Loctite 406.
Yeah.
And I'll just get a very thin bit on, say, a bit of copper wire, and
Yep.
just dress along the side, along the fold where I'm going to glue, and just hold it and just wait 20 seconds and it goes off and it's in the perfect shape.
Yep.
But we're going a bit ahead. We're digressing. So, photo etch, what is it?
Photo etch. Well, it's basically just very thin sheet of, I think it's brass.
Brass generally, yeah.
It's done using a photography. I'm not sure about how they do it. It's like a photography technique where they submerge it in acid. And so it's basically like doing a circuit board.
Yep.
Like an electronic circuit board, and you get the fine shapes that you normally wouldn't get out of plastic.
That's
as you
correct.
said before, like with ship railings, trying to get especially when you're going like to 1/350 or 1/700 scale ship railings, you're not going to be able to reproduce that in plastic.
No.
And not have it like as brittle as soon as you open the box, it's going to shatter on you.
Yes, that's right. But I've also seen photo etch done by Tamaya in a steel. I'm thinking of their...
Dragon used to have the stainless steel photo etch.
Yeah.
They probably still do. And it's thick. It's hard to bend. I remember the Focke-Wulf 190 series from Dragon. And in behind the pilot seat, you had like this bar that came down where the aerial would feed through the top of the canopy and then come down. So when you retracted the canopy, it wouldn't go slack. And this bar had these two little triangular tabs with holes on them that had to bend down. The problem with the bar is right down the centre there was this elongated hole. So as soon as you tried to bend these little tabs down, it'd bend where the hole is, and it's just freaking impossible, mate. I hated it.
Well, I first came across the stainless steel version of photo etch with the Tamaya Japanese submarine, the I-400.
Yes.
And it was like a little... and like you're saying, it was really hard to work with and hard to use because it wasn't as forgiving as, say, brass is.
Yeah, with that sort of stuff, I presume the smart way would be probably heat it up, anneal it or something first, maybe, and that might make it soften it a bit better to bend.
Didn't think of doing that.
I actually don't think it does.
No,
I think that's works more with the brass, but it doesn't really work with the steel.
steel.
And to me, I still do the steel. The recently, more in recent years, released 32nd scale Corsair has steel seat belts. Good luck
steel
bending.
seat belts.
Yep. Good luck bending those.
Oh, that'd be tough to get off, wouldn't they?
Yeah, it's not ideal.
I wouldn't use them.
No,
I'd probably get. What was it?
HGW.
Yeah, I'd get
super fabric seat belts. That'd be the way to go.
They look great. I've got a few sets of them. Haven't used them yet, but they look really nice, and I've seen them done, and they look really good.
Yep.
But like all plastic kits, you get good photo etch and you get bad photo etch. And
Yes.
I'm thinking now, because photo etch is so ubiquitous now, and all manufacturers will have some type of photo etch, generally speaking, in their kits that come out. I'm thinking now some of the things like Hobby Boss and that produce some of the submarines and ships, and they'll have just a small bit of photo etch in there, and it's just...
Some of it's all right. Like, I reckon the Hobby Boss U-boats, the photo etch is quite nice in those. I haven't had any problems with them. The only one I had major dramas with was the French submarine cruiser, the
Surkoff, yes.
The photo etch on that was just so thin.
Yep.
That as soon as you tried to remove it from the gates on the fret, it'd just bend.
Yep.
And once it's bent and kinked, well, it's no use to you anymore. Good luck trying to straighten it out again.
So let's talk about how we actually get the photo etch part off the fret. There's a couple of different methods. The one that's sort of generally promoted and used by most people is to go to the hardware store and get yourself a tile, a porcelain tile, and then just place the photo etch fret down. Get a fresh hobby knife and just push down it and cut it off.
And then
that
watch
way.
it go ping.
Yeah.
Whereas what I do, my bench top has got a big glass sheet on it, big industrial thickness glass sheet. So I put it down on that. If it's a very tiny bit, I usually get like a steel ruler or a small square, put it over the top of the photo etch, then cut it. So I'm holding the part down as I'm cutting it. And that way, there's no way that's going to go flying off into the Netherlands.
Well, I also get a bit of tape and just tape it over the actual part.
Yeah, you can do that.
So that prevents it going
flying off. But the problem is you're restricted with that, because if you're working with a really, really thin, multiple folded part and trying to get it back off the tape, you can damage it.
Yeah, I've been reasonably successful so far and haven't had any issues, I've got to say, with the way I do it. But I have used, instead of having the porcelain tile or the glass top like you use, I'll just use it on a cutting mat sometimes and just punch through that if they're fairly
You've
sort
got
of
to be
thick
careful
parts.
with the cutting mat too, because
Yeah,
you can bend,
bending.
you can bend,
Yes,
bend the ends.
Yes. For very small parts, I won't do that, but for larger parts, I'm quite happy just to go bang, 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 just for the speed. So once you get the part off, then of course you've got a bit of burr to get rid of. And when you're working on really small parts, it's a bit more difficult. But pair of pliers with flat.
I use a flat rectangular pair of pliers.
Yep, just hold
it
the part
in place, and then just get some wet and dry sandpaper, usually around 600 grit.
Yeah. Or I've got a pair of jeweler's files.
Yeah,
I'll just use them.
I found with files you can, because you can't. Well, basically, what I try and do is get the part with the exposed bit of fret as close to the end of the jaws of the pliers myself. And even then, sometimes using a file, you can slightly bend it.
Yep.
Whereas I find just using some 600 grit wet and dry.
Yep.
It's abrasive and it does the job beautifully, and you don't get the you don't slightly bend the edge.
Or even the nail file, the disposable ones that you can buy.
Oh yeah.
They work just as well too.
Yep.
Because it's actually quite soft, the material. Surprisingly so. So get all the burrs off.
Yep.
Because if you don't get those burrs off,
when you fold it,
well, there's the folding issue. But geez, they stand out like nobody's business when you sort of paint them up. You can really notice them.
Yep.
Yeah.
See, I use something else. I use one of the Tamiya photo etch scissors. They're like almost like a small pair of scissors, and they're made for cutting photo etch. And you just, because it applies pressure from above and below, it doesn't. You don't have to worry about it bending one way or the other. You just need to take a nice little snip, and it cuts it nice.
I didn't know Tamiya did those.
Yeah.
Oh. And they work really well.
Yeah, you can't use them usually for cutting off the fret though, because they're wide enough that you usually can't get between the fret and the part.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah, but once you got the part off, they're pretty good for that.
How would you go about sharpening? Because the using them in brass is going to blunt them pretty quick.
Oh no, I mean they're almost like miniature tin snips in a way.
Okay. Because the beauty about using a little hobby knife, which you can buy for like 20 cents or whatever, you don't care whether you sort of blunt that. You just use it.
I always use a chisel blade.
A chisel blade? What, one of the little micro ones, or?
No, depends how small the part is.
Yeah.
One I usually about trying to think how big it is. Probably 8 mil or something wide, 8 to 10 mil wide. Flat sided chisel blade.
That's an expensive way to get the parts off the fret.
Chisel
really?
Blade? Yeah. You can use it. You can do the whole kit with one chisel blade, and they're cheap as then, and then you don't get the really expensive ones.
Okay.
You leave the expensive ones when you're doing you're cutting out your masking and so forth.
Well, I mean, as long as like the surface that you got the fret against and the tool you're using to cut it off, as long as those two objects are harder than the actual fret, you're going to cut through the fret.
Yeah,
it's not that big a deal.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if it works for Ian, good luck.
Hey, you've seen what I do with it.
Well, I have actually, and the stuff you do just blows my mind. That's for sure. Okay, so there's a number of tools out there that are available to help with the folding of photo etch. There's a hold and fold tool.
I think that's one. I've got the big...
Great big long one, and it's got a whole heap of different recesses
Yep.
and smaller things to hold the part. You actually undo the top part of the tool, slide in the etch that needs to be folded with the exposed part of the folding part sticking out, and then you just get like another sharp implement and sort of bend it in.
Yeah, they come with like a scraper blade.
Yeah.
And you just use that.
Yep.
Yeah. I would advise people against buying one of those large ones. You can get really, really small ones, and they get like 98% of all jobs done.
Yes and no.
Yeah, but I've got the big... The reason I've got the big one is when you're doing ship catapults.
Or ship railings.
Well, you don't do much folding with the ship railings. But the catapults, when you're folding up like a catapult, like a 1/350 scale battleship.
Or a crane or something like that.
Crane or something. You want something with a bit of length.
Yep.
Yeah, I find that the longer and larger your photo etch pieces are, the easier you can just use your fingers to bend them. It's the really small
Not
stuff.
with cranes.
No.
Not
You
with
reckon?
cranes, no, because they're very flimsy.
I will say I've never built one of
No,
those
that's
cranes,
right.
right? But I have seen sort of,
We
people.
would have to make a change to you, mate, and get you to build a ship model.
Yeah, let's
No.
try that.
Nah, thanks. I'm good for the time being with my various things.
So there's a long folding tool. And there's also a small one called the Bug, which I think you're referring to, Julian. It's
Yeah.
like a little square, sort of black coloured one.
Yeah,
And-
I mean, to be honest, I think the ones where you've got like two different knobs to tighten down.
Yeah, and this one, the Bug's
Can
only
be a
got
bit
one.
tricky to use.
And this one's the Bug's only got one knob.
Yep.
And two locating pins. And I use that quite a lot because A, it's great for smaller parts, and B, it's just easy to handle. But for the larger parts, like Ian's talking about, you definitely need the longer and big one.
Yeah.
And also for more complex parts, like when you're building radar masts and radar parts as well. For the larger one, will have the better compound areas that you need to use.
Yep, exactly.
And also, believe it or not, just using my hand with a pin or something like that to help get a curve or a convex shape.
You can actually buy tools for that.
You can, but I find
They're
that
pretty expensive.
they're very expensive.
Well, I saw one. It was about 60 odd Australian dollars,
Yeah.
and all it was just like a bit of steel with all these concave tubes running down it and different sized bits of wood
Yeah, that's the one I saw too.
of dowel. It's
Yeah.
about 60 odd bucks.
Yeah.
I think, it's
Yeah.
a bit expensive.
And as I said, I reckon I can get just a similar sort of shape with just wrapping it around a pencil or wrapping it around the shaft of a
Drill bit.
drill bit.
Drill bits
or-
work great for that sort of
Or
stuff.
screwdriver or something like that.
Yep.
It works just as well.
Yeah.
But if you want to collect tools, well, by all means, go out and...
Yes, we find that these days. The tool collection.
So gluing, when you're doing a complex fold and the gluing. So Ian, you said you use Gorilla.
For the small bits, for the larger bits, I use the super glue.
Yeah.
But I have recently purchased a soldering iron, so I'm going to experiment soldering.
Well, I'm really keen to hear how you're going to go because the photo etch is so thin. I reckon the heat, you'd have to have it on a really low heat.
If you're doing like large box structures, that's what I'm planning if I to use the soldering iron for. For small stuff, no point.
Yeah.
Myself. But like if you're doing like a large box structure or something, yeah, solder it.
Yeah.
And what I've seen online, people doing soldering, it comes up a treat and it's so strong.
Yeah,
The joint would be strong, yeah.
Yeah,
and you can sand it.
correct.
I'd just be concerned about getting warping into the part because you're applying heat to sort of,
That's why I use a heat sink.
Yeah.
Well, the heat doesn't really go into the part; it just goes into the flux. Yeah, the actual material you use to do the welding of it, so to speak. Because you're only putting enough heat in to melt that, and then once it uses the capillary action, usually to run between two parts, that's how it.
And the soldering iron I purchased myself has actually got a little dial on it, so you can adjust the heat setting.
So what's the smallest tip that comes with that particular soldering iron?
Oh,
Is it really tiny so you can get right in?
But you can make your own tip.
Yeah, just file it down.
Yeah, file it down. Put it on a bench grinder.
Well, I'll be interested to see how you to hear your report back on how that
Well,
works.
once I finally get around to using it, which I don't know when that will be, but I've got it there in the stash.
So you've bought the tool in anticipation, thinking I'll use this one.
Oh
Day.
yeah, always.
All right, painting the parts. Do we paint before or after?
Always
do the
paint. Always after the fold. Always.
I'm the same.
If it's a standard bit like a ship railing, I'll paint it first
Yep.
on the fret,
Yep.
and then cut it off the fret. And usually you got to do like a little touch up. You can do that with a paintbrush, and you won't even notice.
Yep.
But if it's a foldable part, always fold it up first, clean it up, then paint it.
Yep. I tend to do the same. I'll do the fold first, then I'll do an undercoat.
Yep.
Like I'll use to me a rattle can. I find that adheres quite well to it, and that gives the paint something to sort of then key into.
Never had a problem with using guns. I just use guns straight on the part. Never had a problem with it.
No, See, there was a particular part that what was it? Oh, it was the USS New York, which is a landing ship dock in the current US Navy. and it was a big 1/350 scale ship. And Pontos, which is a manufacturer that does a lot of aftermarket stuff for photo etch, they actually produced a kit for or a photo etch to go along with this ship. And the landing section where the helicopters land on top, they had a complete large piece of photo etch to replace where the aircraft land on. So I put that down, then which didn't really adhere too well to the plastic because I used the wrong sort of glue. But that's another story. Then I painted it, and I did the undercoat and the top coat. But unfortunately, the decals that came with this particular kit that Pontos produced was a rub-on decal.
Oh, the dry transfers.
Dry transfers. Not a good idea onto PE. Because even when you're doing a light rub, it tends to rub the paint off underneath, and then you expose all of the... you can see the PE underneath it. So...
in the some, it's not that common, I think, depending on your application of photo etch, but places where the photo etch can flex, you always run that risk of the paint just sort of cracking and flaking off, right? But in those cases, I do use a Gunseller metal primer, right? And that will put an end to that.
Guns metal primer?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it works. It works really, really, really well.
Yeah.
Like gun barrels on tanks.
Yep.
Sometimes you might drop them on the edge of your desk, and that'll ruin your paint.
Yeah, but with a tank, you can just have those battle damage.
Seeing a shiny aluminium coming through.
Just put a bit of paint on it, dirty it up, mate. She'll be right.
Those newfangled alloy gun barrels. Oh yeah.
I never knew Guns did a metal paint, primer.
Look into that tonight.
Yeah, they sell it in a rattle can, and they also sell it in a little, sort of those little bowls that they have that they sell their there's little square squat.
Yep,
and
you can airbrush it.
I would not airbrush it. It is a metal primer. Unless you want to prime the inside of your airbrush, that's not an advisable thing to do.
Have you got a MEK cleans into them, mate? Just make sure you got some methyl ethyl ketone, and you'll clean your airbrush out every time.
maybe try that on a shitty airbrush that you don't care about losing first.
I think I prefer the rattle can method.
But you can brush it on just fine.
But you'd have to sand it though to get rid of your brush strokes, or is it like a self-leveling?
Oh, it's leveling enough. I mean, I rattle canned it onto gun barrels, and it's as cured as it's ever going to get. It's quite tacky, but once you spray anything over the top of it, fine.
But the gun barrels you're using, are they aluminium or are they brass?
Aluminium.
Okay.
But brass, it's all the same, really. Just as anywhere where you photo etch is going to flex or something like that, you know. It can really help with some build where, as careful as you can be, you'll end up sort of knocking something and then, paint flakes off it, just like the Eduard photo etch.
I got a can of Etch Prime in the paint cupboard anyway.
That's probably very similar.
Etch Prime, great stuff, Etch Prime. The only thing with Etch Prime is don't sand it.
Yes. Yeah.
Just put Etch Prime, then your primer, then sand.
Of course, the other thing I mentioned, because we mentioned aftermarket companies, everyone's talking about Pontos, but a lot of companies, what we call cottage industry, has sort of sprung up in the last 10, 20 years where that's all they do. They'll sort of just concentrate on producing photo etch for particular models.
Well, I think that's pretty much where Eduard started off themselves.
Yeah, and Eduard, because they now produce...
You remember they used to do those little Zoom kits, photo etch sets back in the early 80s, I think it was. And
they now produce photo etch that's actually got painted parts on it. How the heck they do that? I've got no idea. I'd love to know.
Some screen printing process, I'd say.
I'd love to know the manufacturing process. Yeah. But, I mean, that's fantastic because you can get the whole cockpits already. You do just cut them out and sort of stick them on and Bob's your uncle.
Oh, you do. You got to paint the sides of the photo etch.
Yes.
Because otherwise you're going to have like this big silver outline.
That's true.
Especially some of the bits where you got like multiple folds to raise like a panel on a cockpit.
What I dislike about that is the ones that are pre-adhesive. The ones with the sticky stuff on the back.
Oh, the yeah, because
No, that's terrible stuff. It won't stick to anything. It kind of looks like it will, but it won't. And then you try
stick
to
your fingers.
and then you try to and then you try to scrape the stuff off the back, and it's a mess. Yeah.
And I was never really a fan much of the pre-painted seatbelts either.
I don't mind.
I had
them.
a few sets, but I found that when you bent them, the paint would just flake off.
Yeah, I just glue them back down, and if it flakes off completely, I just paint it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
it's good enough. I mean, it's in 48 scale, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Any larger, and I wouldn't bother with that.
But I do love the pre-painted instrument panels. I reckon they're the
you've seen like the stuff coming out from Yahoo.
Yeah,
they just do instrument panels.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're freaking amazing.
Oh, they really?
They really are. They're already done. All you do is just take it out of the bag and glue it in place.
What's some of the Edward stuff too? Instrument panels that come with some of their kits now.
Yeah, but the Edward ones are usually multiple piece.
Yes.
So you've got like a backing piece with your dials on it, and then you've got your fascias that get glued on. Whereas these Yahoo, it's all one piece.
Oh, wow.
All pre-painted, just glue it in place.
I'll have to Google it and have a look at some of that stuff.
I think it's YAHU, I think.
Yes, that's right.
Yahoo, yeah.
So putting the actual part onto the kit, what's the preferred method again? Is it we're going to use super glue or we're going to use...
as I said before, if it's a large piece, super glue.
Yep.
If it's a small piece, I just use Gorilla Grip.
Yep.
So with especially the small pieces, because you want to get them exactly in the right spot, and with the Gorilla Grip, you can put them in place and you've got a couple of minutes to be able to adjust it.
I think Gorilla Grip gives you a bit longer than that generally.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. But it's the one you got to leave alone for a good 8-12 hours.
Well, I just leave it. I just leave it overnight and get back to it the following day.
Yep. A good pair of reading glasses or the
the Optivisors.
Optivisors is definitely recommended when you're doing the small stuff and when you're attaching it to your model. Make sure the model is firmly secured, and I'd recommend that you use one of those stand-up desks if you can, or if not, have the model placed up sort of high so it's at your eye line, so that when you're actually putting the part on, it's going to go on a lot easier rather than sort of having to hover over the top of it.
Yes.
Yeah. It just makes life so much easier. You don't get a sore back anymore.
Yeah. But yeah, photo etch, it's a lot of fun. I think most enjoyment, and it sounds a bit crazy, I ever got was when I had to do 10 20mm Olicons in 1 to 350 scale, the master kits. So basically it was a brass pedestal, brass barrel, turn barrel, and everything else was photo etch.
Wow.
And these things, I think you've seen
I've seen them.
They are tiny.
They are tiny,
but
yes.
they look great.
Don't they look great? And it looks scaled correctly as well.
Yeah, and you put it up against the kit part, and it's like, what's this blob?
Yes. Yeah, exactly right.
The amount of space they take up, even with the shield on either side of the gun, the whole setup is occupies like a centimeter cube of space.
Not even that. They're that
It'd be
small.
2 mil by about 2 mil.
Yeah, they're absolutely tiny. Yeah. And I did a production run of 10 of them.
Yeah.
And it was great. Just boom, 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 boom. First one took me about 2 hours, which is a long time for a very small bit because I was being really careful. But once you get your first one done,
off you go.
You know what you're doing, and you bang, 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 just knock them out.
And they look fantastic.
Yeah, they come out quite well.
It really makes the model, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Just not looking forward to doing the Yorktown. That's got about 60 plus.
All right, so I think that about wraps up for Photo Etch. Any closing comments on Photo Etch?
If you haven't tried it, try it.
Yeah.
It's great.
Give it a go.
It really improves your kit, especially the scale thickness. It really just makes your kit pop.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so if you want to, if you've got any ideas or anything, subjects you want us to talk about, please drop us a line on our email address, which is onthebench64@gmail.com. If you're a kit manufacturer or a cottage industry and you'd like us to review something, again, drop us a line at onthebench64@gmail.com. Coming up next, we're going to be talking about the cost of our hobby, and we'll be talking about that very soon. And we're back again and be talking about the cost of our hobby now. So, who wants to kick off first?
Go for it, Dave.
Well, there's been a lot of chat online about the hobby getting expensive and questions whether it's getting too expensive. And really, I guess it comes down to sort of personal preference. And
Exactly.
while, yes, there are some areas of the hobby that are getting expensive, I'm just looking up now. There's a 1/350 scale USS Iwo Jima LHD 7. The price of that was $439 and now down to $399. So that's just for the ship kit itself. And then when you go and add the photo etch, which would probably cost you another $200 or $300, you're up to about $600 already. And that's not including the paint and all the other stuff to go with it.
I've fallen in that trap myself, Dave.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was a trumpeter, 1/350 scale USS Yorktown CV10.
Yep.
The kit's over $100, and I reckon I've spent at least another $300-400 on Pontos and other accessories.
And it is the accessories that can sort of drive it up, really, too, isn't it?
Oh, definitely.
The cost.
Definitely.
I mean, I'm looking now at the Pontos detail set for the 1/200 scale HMS Rodney battleship. Now, the photo etch or the detail upset comes with stained wooden deck. It's got scribe brass of 330 pieces, 14 sheets of photo etch, 34 resin parts, 2 brass screws for the props, and that is $317.50 Australian.
Yep.
And the ship itself is probably about $300, if not $350, $400 as well. So, you know, you can really get into spending some major sort of
definitely.
dollars.
Like I recently purchased 4 of the Airfix 148 scale P40Bs.
Yep.
And I think they're probably about 30 odd bucks each Australian, if not a bit more. And well, the Edward sets and the exhausts and wheels and seats, I've doubled the price.
Yeah, absolutely.
Double the price easily. But it's you don't need to. You can build a kit straight out of the box and enjoy it. As long as you're getting enjoyment out of the kit. It comes down to, as I said before, personal preference. Do you want to really go crazy and be a silly bugger like I am at times and go overboard with the detail?
Yep.
Or just build it straight out of the box?
Yep.
Well, I think most people, when they think about the costs of modelling, they like to look primarily at just the kit itself without thinking about the aftermarket, because not everyone goes in for that.
Plus the tools, paints, glues.
Yep.
Yeah. But if you're just looking at the kits, like you can see a steady increase over the years.
Yeah.
They've been getting more expensive. But then you got people like Zvezda coming in, and FX is pretty reasonably priced.
Yep,
you know,
exactly.
And like Zvezda make great kits now.
Mm.
They didn't used to, but the last couple of aircraft releases have all been very highly rated, and it's like you can't argue with those sort of prices, really.
And then you look at like the smaller cottage industry kits. Like I've got a couple of I think they're called U-boat Laboratorium, and they do World War I submarines.
Yeah.
And 1/350 scale, like you're paying 70 odd Australian dollars for a submarine that's freaking no longer than your hand.
Yeah. But then again, it's a very limited sort of production
Exactly,
run.
yeah.
So,
and you're not going to find that kit anywhere else.
Exactly right.
Exclusivity.
Exactly, yeah. If you want it, pay for it.
But perhaps that's why we're seeing such a rise in smaller scales, like the 144th scale aircrafts now. They're becoming huge.
Yeah.
And you go to model shows now, and they're everywhere, and people are building them left, right, and centre.
Yep.
So you got two things that are low cost. An example here is there's a B-47 Stratojet, $29.95 in 140 scale, 140.
1/144 scale, Dave.
Thank you. Couldn't get it out.
But even at that scale, that's a pretty decent sized aircraft.
It's a decent sized kit, yeah.
You're looking at something that's probably the size of a 148 scale 109.
Yep. And $30 isn't a huge amount of money to spend on the kit. And as Julian was saying, get Airfix kits 1/72 scale for about $20 in some of the.
And the 72nd scale stuff is so good
the
now.
Hobby Boss 72nd scale kits are pretty cheap too.
Yep.
Yeah.
But then again, you can get expensive 1/72 scale ones.
Oh, yeah.
There's the Russian Sukhoi Su-34 fullback fighter. That's going for $92.50 for a 1/72 scale fighter.
Yep.
I mean, that's a crazy price for 1/72 scale. I mean, really?
Well, obviously people are willing to pay that.
But I've got to say, I mean, I'm thinking back to when I used to go and buy the, $2.50 sort of plastic, kits in a plastic bag.
Yeah, fixed ones in the bag.
Yeah, ones in the bag. And $2.50 back then, when you sort of relate it to how much we're earning now and the cost now, it's,
Yeah, it's not that much of a difference.
No. It's only if you're sort of, really keen to sort of go and buy, the larger stuff. And, let's face it, most of the modelers now are of that age where we've got disposable income, I guess, to a certain degree.
Yep.
And if you haven't, as I said, you can start small in the smaller scales.
Yeah.
But compared to a lot of other, say, hobbies, there's not quite as much of a correlation between quality and price. Like you can get Zvezda kits that are reasonably high quality at low prices, and then at the other end of the scale, you've got some of the trumpeter kits are horribly expensive for pretty poor quality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes no
Kitty
sense.
Hawk.
Kitty Hawk, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that. Yeah, they get a bit of a thrashing, don't they?
Yeah, they do. But, I think in some respects they sort of deserve it. But then in other respects, I mean, there's a huge thing online about the latest Kitty Hawk. Is it the SU-27?
Or 22 or something.
17 it might be, actually.
Yeah, 17,
Nah, that's swing wing thing, the Sukhoi swing wing.
Yeah, the one that's the 3-part fuselage.
A 6-part.
6-part fuselage, and the camelback that goes along the top of it. That's all in different
multiple pieces.
Yeah, yeah.
It's stuff like it's to me that's a bit over-engineered and overpriced.
Yeah, but at the same, generally Kitty Hawk have made themselves what they are by releasing kits that people really want.
Yep.
Jets that people really want, but at the same time, there's you got no choice, because if you want to build that thing, you've only got one choice. You got Kitty Hawk.
I remember watching one comment online, and the guy said, the attitude is, look, we'll make it, but you figure out how to put it together.
It's almost like a resin kit, isn't it? Because the resin kits usually have pretty poor instructions.
Oh, tell me about it. I've got a few resin kits, and you look at the instructions, and it's like,
Here's a depiction of what it should look like when finished.
Yeah. Mind you, the one kit I've got that I find absolutely... I know Dave's been itching to find one himself, is the USS Ward.
Oh, yeah.
From Gulfstream.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful resin kit. But the instructions...
No instructions.
There's not really much instructions. There's about 4 or 5 little line drawings of certain components, and the rest is just all typed out. So it's like stepping back to the 1970s.
Yeah. What about armour? Is armour sort of getting up there as well? Is that sort of matching?
Yeah, Dragon armour's always pretty expensive.
Yeah.
And then you got Meng.
Yeah, Meng are expensive, but they're also very, very high,
good. Yeah, top
very
quality.
high quality.
Yeah.
I've built a couple of Meng kits now, and I would build them even if I didn't like the subject. They're that well engineered,
that enjoyable to build.
Yeah.
But again, to me, it's pretty reasonable price for their armour, aren't they?
Well, to me, I mean, you can get a 1/35th scale Valentine Mark III, and that goes for about $57 Aussie.
Mm-hmm.
That's a brand new kit too.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Not too bad. It's probably appropriately priced.
Yeah,
but again, it depends whether the tracks that come with it. We have to get aftermarket tracks. That's where the cost starts to eat in, isn't it? Where you get
especially like you go like something like the Fruy model tracks. I think you can't get a set of them for less than about $40.
Yeah,
and they're all
sounds cheap to me.
Yeah, it's probably dearer than that. But and the thing is, they're all the same price, no matter what tracks you buy. They're pretty much the same. Like you can buy a set of tracks for like an SDKF Z251. It'll probably cost you the same amount of money as a set of tracks for like a King Tiger.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas there's a lot more metal in the King Tiger tracks than there are in those little half tracks, the Hanamag tracks.
Speaking of Tigers, there's the Ruffield model Tiger, one with the full interior and everything, and that is an expensive kit. That is a very expensive kit.
You want to go Tigers? What are the model factory Hero?
Oh, is that the ones more made of metal?
Yeah.
And they're about like $6,000 or something, aren't they?
Oh, no, that's the big 1/16th scale.
Yes.
No, these are like 130. I think it's 135th scale.
Yeah.
Model factory, and it's got the working suspension and everything.
Yeah, there's no plastic in it. It's just all white metal and resin.
Because I know Model Factory Hero, I checked on B&A, they do 3 Shelby Cobras in 1/16 scale.
Yeah.
900 plus Aussie dollars. But you've got the quality of Model Factory Hero.
Yeah.
If you're willing to spend the money.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I must say, I have been silly enough occasionally to spend $1,000 on a certain subject.
Yeah.
Which one day maybe I might build that thing, but but when you spend that much money, you're a bit wary about building it in case you stuff it up.
So it just sits in your stash there.
It sits stashed away.
An investment for the future.
See, I can't take that perspective. I mean, I see everything as disposable. I bought it to be used, and if I don't use it, then I'm wasting money.
I think what should happen is someone should just come to my place with a truck, load up all my kits, bar that one kit, and say, you're not getting them back till you built that thing.
Is that a challenge? I know where you live.
Well, yeah. Hey, it might be the thing that makes me pull my finger out of my backside and finally start it. Because I really wouldn't mind building it, but it's a huge investment. Like my Yorktown's a massive investment.
But the other thing too is that you look at some of the crazy prices that people are actually willing to pay, and if you look at Evil Bay as a good example, I mean, some of the prices that kits go for on there are just out of this world, and people are paying for them though.
Yeah, well, I think there's one mob, the cheapest something online or something, the cheapest products online, and everything they sell is like 6 times the price that you pay at retail.
But people must be paying for it. Otherwise, that's what I don't get.
Well, some people collect kits, some older kits, right? And then
like the frog collectors collect frog kits.
Well, the thing about collectors is people will collect anything, right? And then there are people who I've met someone who actually purchases the Tamiya 32nd scale aircraft because they're really high quality, and he reckons that he'll be able to sell them for a higher amount later. It's an investment for him.
No, not Tamiya, because the Tamiya just pumps out so many of those kits. You can do that. You got to start looking at like some of the smaller
prices of
cottage industry kits. That I remember years ago in the 80s, you had a company called Right Stuff, and they did a KI-61 Tony in all resin, and the prices they were asking back in the 80s and early 90s for these kits was just phenomenal.
I guess really what it comes down to is that if you can afford it and you enjoy the hobby, you'll buy it. Just make sure that you sort of stay within your means, really, when it comes to purchasing these things.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And you know, you got to look at towards some of the things that you're purchasing, like the paints. You're going to be using those paints over and over again.
Yep.
Really. So it's it's not like you're buying paint for just to collect paints. Although there might be some people out there who do that. But is the hobby getting too expensive? I settle on the side. No, it's not. I think we're pretty much where we should be. Yeah. Yes, it seems expensive at $350 for a ship. But you know what? That same ship 20 years ago to produce a 1/350 scale would have probably been like, $80 or $90 or even $100.
Yep.
And compared to what I was earning back then, that would have still been the same sort of.
That's right, yeah.
So
just follows the dollar trend.
And if you're on a budget, there's always the second-hand game.
Yep. Yes, absolutely. Go to those
swap meets,
swap and
sells.
Yeah, good places to pick up bargains. Stay away from eBay, I reckon, because you're not going to get a good price there.
Yeah, but sometimes on eBay, if you're after a specific thing, you don't always find it at swap and sells.
Yeah, that's true as well.
There's a few things I've had to buy recently off Evil Bay, and I haven't seen them at swap and sells. I know they're around.
And that's the beauty of the world market.
That's it.
It sure is. All right, I think that about wraps it up. If you want to comment or have a talk to us about anything, again, drop us an email at onthebench64@gmail.com. Also, if you're downloading this on iTunes, please go and leave a rating. Just makes it easier for other people to find. Next week, I think we're going to be talking about paints. and we'll have a
Yeah,
discussion
we'll have a bit of a
about
chat about paints.
a bit of a chat about paints and what's good paint, what's bad paint, and how to use it, and the pitfalls to sort of avoid.
Yep.
And I think that's it from me, Ian.
Yep, that's it for me. Bye, everyone.
Julian.
Yep. See ya.
No worries. Thanks for listening.